Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of the Inky Thoughts podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about dating and romance in the tattoo world, or rather, dating as a tattoo artist and tattoo enthusiast, so to speak, a tattoo collector, if you want, if you prefer. But seeing as I am what you would call painfully single, I've brought along a special guest, a return guest, and her husband. So. If you hadn't had enough of her last time, which I think many of you didn't, as you seem to really love this episode, I've invited back Jessie Silva from Just Another Hole in the Wall Tattoo in South Carolina, if I remember correctly. And she's brought along a very special guest for us. Will you introduce yourself and your dear husband, Jessie?
Yes.
Arsenio Silva. I'm a phys ed teacher, a volleyball coach, and wrestling coach. I have a PhD in literacy, language, and culture, and I have been married to this tattoo artist since 2012.
And I'm
I mean,
Jessie
that's a lot.
Silva.
That was a lot of a CV there. That was a good CV.
Yeah. I'm Jessie Silva. Live in South Carolina. I'm a tattoo artist, and I own Just Another Hole in the Wall Tattoo. And yeah, we've been married 12 years, together 15.
Okay, I mean, so you popped the whoever popped the question. I don't know which one might have pressured who into the first. You were together for quite a short time, I would say. Not unusually short, but yeah.
He actually
The-
proposed after about a year and a half.
Wow, you shut him down after that time. All right.
No, I told yes, but we waited. We were both
Okay.
in college. Yeah, no, I didn't say no because
Oh,
I
now I get it.
sobbed and then said
So it
yes,
wasn't
yes.
like a proposal and a shotgun wedding in Vegas, something like that. It was
No.
okay, more
No,
more
an extended
traditional in that
proposal.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. We were both college students still, so we decided that we should probably do that and then get married.
So when you sort of got together, were you both into tattoos already, or did that sort of come later?
Yeah, we were both in college.
Tattoos.
Oh, into tattoos. Sorry.
Thank you, Arsenio.
No worries.
Jeez Louise. He had
Barely. So I had my first tattoo when I was 18.
Okay.
Very small tattoo on my chest. My cousin and I got matching tattoos because we were thick as thieves at the time. Um, I hadn't had a tattoo. When did you give me my first tattoo? We were together.
oh gosh. A couple years in, because I didn't start tattooing until
I mean, I'd probably gone 6, 7
oh
years
yeah, yeah.
before I got my next tattoo.
Oh.
She had started tattooing before I got another one. So I was not very much into tattoos. Like most people, I wanted more, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have the resources to get good tattoos, never mind bad tattoos. I just wasn't really.
Been there.
Yeah. And then I was just fortunate. My dad was a tattoo artist, so I grew up around it and loved
Oh, yeah,
it.
we've
And
talked about the sordid story of how you got your first tattoo way too young.
yeah.
My family hated tattoos. Like they were so angry when I
Oh,
got my
right.
first tattoo. Like, yeah, I come from a family that was not
You,
okay
you
with
you sort of
tattoos
have
at
more of the
all.
like regular experience, so to speak, Arsenio, with how like the
Okay.
family hates it. You get whereas me and her, we're both spoiled. She's from a tattoo artist dad, so there's no problem there. I come from some very progressive parents that were just like, hey, if you wait till you're 18, we're okay with it as long as you
Yeah.
think before
Yeah.
you ink.
Oh
Like,
yeah, even in my 30s, I still get the most horrible look from my grandmother when she sees a new tattoo that I've gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he married me. So that was a
oh yeah,
whole
we already spoke last time about how you she sort of could claim real estate on your skin being a tattoo artist and be like, hey, part of the work, gotta practice, you know.
yeah.
She's got all of it. The whole development is owned by her.
I love that way of putting it, the whole development. So that's almost a shirt, like.
He has a way with words.
So what was the first tattoo you got by Jesse?
It was a samurai on my left thigh.
I mean,
No.
that is a place you would want your girlfriend at the time to tattoo you, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love the tattooing process part itself, but having her down there wasn't the worst.
And of course,
You charmer, you.
and of course he's trying to hide it. So we were like, it was like, it was high up
Well, it was
there.
one of your first
It was like
tattoos.
my
Yeah.
third or fourth tattoo I'd ever
Wow,
done
okay. So
in my
so
life.
you stepped up for the marriage there
Yes,
and
I
we're like,
was willing
okay,
to guinea pig on more than one occasion, and that was also part of the placement choice. Like, all right, it's your third shot at it. Let's not put it on my forearm.
I
Just
mean, as much as we could speak about doing brave things for love, I can't do anything but applaud his decision to be like, hey, if you fuck this up, we're not gonna get a divorce because it's gonna be
yeah.
hidden.
It's just going to be hidden. That's all. It'll be
Yeah,
our
I
little
just don't see
secret.
it. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've seen horror stories of tattoo artists that are like, no, we'll put it on your face. Like,
Well,
then, it's just like, no, don't do that. Don't. It's especially because if you break up, like, no, let's not say you break up. And it is sort of very on theme today. But there's so many bad tattoo choices between couples, and I can imagine there's a lot of pressure on that in the tattoo world as well. Now, I've never been a tattoo artist myself, but I'll try and speak first from what I've at least seen out there. The most artists I know, like, it has to be a couple of years into a relationship before they want to tattoo their partner because they don't want it to be like, oh yeah, then we break up and then you walk around with a tattoo by me. Like, no matter what it is.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of stories of tattoo artists coming up, and that's their first, that's kind of their guinea pig,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's the closest person you have to you. But I mean, I knew, I don't know, we kind
Oh,
of
oh
both
yeah.
knew it wasn't.
I'm not knocking your relationship. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
oh yeah, clock's ticking. I mean, 15 years. When's the
Yeah.
window? No, no.
she knew that I wasn't going anywhere, and I knew that she was really talented, and even a bad tattoo by her was going to be better than most people's tattoo work. So
I mean, that does
I was
help,
willing to take the
like
risk.
you don't want to be the guy to sit there with your newly minted wife after a couple of years and get a tattoo by her, be like, how do I tell her like I don't want another one? It was very
Yeah.
hard. Like I
We can stay
definitely want
together,
another
but I'm going to
tattoo,
find a new
honey.
artist.
Not
Yeah.
like imagine dropping that bomb. Like I definitely want another tattoo, honey, just not by you. Like
Yeah, that would have been really sad, like, really sad.
like oh yeah, no, I definitely want more tattoos. Don't worry. Just
Don't ever
is
touch
there
me
not a
again.
girl at the shop or something that like you try like
Yeah.
It's been quite the opposite, actually. She's done every single one of my
oh
tattoos. She
every one of them.
even
Oh yeah.
she even redid my first tattoo. So
Oh.
technically that one is now repurchased by her. And I've got one. I've got one tattoo by someone else, and it's one of the girls in her
Oh
shop, a
yeah.
very small
Oh.
one.
Oh. How was that experience then? I mean, let's start with you,
She
Arsenio.
was
How was that
also
experience?
new. Yeah, she was also new. It was also one of her early tattoos. She had just come out of apprenticeship, I
Yeah,
think.
she was pretty fresh still. It was Elise.
So I even pimped myself out to the girls in her shop.
Well, at least we know there wasn't any jealousy, I would say, in
No,
that
oh my
regard.
God.
Look, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that would be having met Jesse before. I wouldn't imagine you get very jealous about it if he got it not a tattoo. But you've just, uh, what made you stay like, so to speak, loyal to Jesse tattoo wise? Like, is it just like convenience, or is it just like that'll do you? Or do you ever
No,
think
there's
about
nothing
getting something
convenient
by
about it
somebody
at
else?
all. There's almost zero convenience. Um, if I
Okay.
if I had a tattoo artist that was not her, I'd get tattooed more often. Um,
Oh
it's
wow. Okay,
I mean,
we
she's
gotta
amazing.
dive into this. How
Yeah.
how come it would happen more often than if it wasn't Jesse?
Hey, this is so one of the questions on the sheet that I saw was, something people should know about being in a relationship with a tattoo artist. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people from the outside make the assumption you're married to a tattoo artist, you must get tattooed whenever you want, right? Whatever you want, however big, you're married to the artist, right? Um, no, we share a life together. So so paying customers come first.
Yeah, I mean,
We share the same bills. The business is our lifeblood. So paying customers come first, and she has a lot of customers
I mean, she is
waiting.
quite popular, especially in her studio, just another hole in the wall. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
people coming through the door, I imagine. So
Yeah. So I don't really I don't get much time in the chair. It's very
I've
big
never
gaps.
seen a man more sad about not getting tattoo appointments
It's
than Arsenio's looking right now.
it's so
Like,
sad.
I love that there's no jealousy, like romance wise. There's jealousy in the relationship regarding tattoo
Yes.
appointments. Like, when are you gonna fit me in here? Like,
I see her doing designs. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Hey, what do you think about this for me? And she's like, I can't think about that right now. Maybe down the line.
maybe for our anniversary, maybe on your
Yeah.
birthday, we'll figure it out.
This poor man, all he asked me this summer, because he's a teacher, so he's off all summer. He says, "Babe, do you think maybe you could just like tattoo me this summer?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I could tattoo you this summer." And then it was August, and he was like, "Guess what? You didn't do this summer." I'm so sorry.
Man, that's so bad. Like you
So
promised
we
this man,
literally
like
we
yeah, let's
blocked
fit you in, man. Yeah, summertime. Yeah, we'll fit you in. Slow season. We'll get like
right, which is the worst time to get tattooed. And he's like, "I'll do it." But so we blocked a whole week for next year. Next year, he was like, "What about next summer?"
I'm gonna get an angry Instagram message from Arsenio being like, "Can you remind this bitch to tattoo me this summer?" We're gonna be in August this year, and he's gonna be like, once
It happened
again.
again.
I see all this beautiful work go out the door. I'm like, oh man, the training only comes by once a year, and I miss it half the time.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's an important point to get because I've seen that. I mean, I've been closer to tattoo artists, I've been friends with a few of them, so I knew this. But I think a lot of people out there don't know this, that it is a job, and when you're dating a tattoo artist, it's not going to be like, oh no, every weekend we're just going to be tattooing you. No, they also need time to unwind and be with you and be in the relationship, and your parents as well. So there's also time for the kids and all that stuff, you know. So the people think, as you said, I said here, people think, oh no, no, it's just like every other day I drop into the studio and we get a little tattoo knocked out. No, it's not. It's not at all how it works when you're dating a tattoo artist.
And since we had our daughter, it's gotten even worse because I mean, if we don't have someone to watch her, then she's not going to sit there for hours on end and watch daddy get tattooed. So, yeah,
I mean, that's when you know it's gonna be bad when she becomes a teenager if she wants to sit there and do that because she's gonna be asking what to do way too early if she's already sitting there watching.
She draws on herself all the time.
She
Yeah,
really
we already,
does.
we already know it's
You know
coming.
what? That's the first sign. Because my mom tells me she knew I was gonna get tattooed, me and my twin brothers, since we were very small, like toddlers almost. Because our favorite thing, even more so than video games or anything else, was temporary tattoo stickers from bubblegum packets and drawing on ourselves and stuff like that.
Yep. Lena, when she was 2.5, she went into Montessori school. She was about 3, and I heard from the teachers that she was giving kids sandbox tattoos. So she was making little tattoos out of the sand on their skin. She used to do it in the tub, like, yeah. So I don't think she'll
Mm.
tattoo, but I definitely think she might have them.
She's gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine so. I mean, I could imagine she would have a rebellious face, but she's gonna be like, "Fuck you, mom and dad, I'm not getting tattooed," and then she's gonna get
Yeah,
tattooed
dude, she wanted
later.
to be rebellious. She was like, no tattoos. I want my skin to be virgin forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But why?
that's gonna be the weird thing because you're both educated, you're quite progressive. One of you is a tattoo artist, the other one collects heavily and is a school teacher. There's not gonna be much to rebel against.
I'm right.
It's gonna be quite difficult because there's gonna.
Yeah.
I want to get a piercing. Sure, where?
Yeah, right. I'll come with you.
Fuck, man, let's go get our sepsins done.
Yeah.
I could freely imagine Arsenio having that conversation with you, Jesse, in a few years' time. Be like, "You did what?" Well, I was at work. We just
Yeah.
want to get piercings, man.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
she does bad in school. That'll be the one thing that the
Yeah.
two of us will.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
both agree with
Yeah.
that
We are
that actually.
opposites in so many ways. That was the one thing that we had in common.
Yeah.
So
That's actually a way I think, because we spoke about this a little bit, the image tattoo parents get sometimes, and I think it's a good place to get into it a bit, because that's the one thing I think many people won't imagine tattoo parents, one, being highly educated, because a lot of stereotypes still to this day sadly think, oh no, you're definitely working, like she's probably a hairdresser and he's probably a mechanic or whatever like that, you know? And the other thing is that I think people often think of the parents as too that they must not care about grades. But here you are, both college educated and want to use a teacher. So
yeah, and
imagine
she was the better student.
that. Well, take it from me, man. I was never a straight A student either, and I've been a teacher at the university level as well. Like, what is it? Those that can't do teach. Like,
Yeah.
Now wait,
no, 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 no. But
he's better at school than I am. Like I'm better at doing the school stuff. I was more diligent and like that, but he is incredibly
Yeah.
intelligent, so he didn't have to be as diligent as
But
I was, which is why he was a poor student, but
it's a
still
bit of a
like really
side note
good
as
at
well,
it.
but most people that get into that level, we are often not great students before PhD level and stuff like that because we don't think in that straight line most education requires, and we don't care to sit down and just do shit. We would rather be out there figuring shit out, and that makes you a very poor
Definitely.
student when it comes to grades, but it
Yeah.
makes you quite intelligent as a scientist.
Yeah, school was easier for me the farther along I got for
Yeah,
that reason.
same, same. But that's beside the point. But I was more thinking about the images you or the image other people might have or prejudice, so to speak, of you guys as the two parents. You already talked about, and I don't mean necessarily negative prejudice. I just mean like prematurely uh, garnered opinions about you guys. You already talked about how you sort of known as the tattooed mom at school, Jesse.
Yeah.
But what about you, Arsenio? Is there any certain images you get? You both, I mean, you both, I imagine, pick your daughter or your. How many kids do you have?
Just one.
Just one, yeah. Imagine you pick your daughter up at school, but you also work in school. Is there like a difference in how you are perceived when it's at the pickup or when it's teaching with your
We were
tattoos?
just talking about this. This is so interesting. He came up with a really, go ahead.
Um, I forgot what we talked about, but on that topic. So when I first started teaching, I taught in Horry County,
Mm.
and that that school district had a policy that you could not show your tattoos at all.
Wow.
Um, so parents, didn't know that I was tattooed, that they had a tattooed person teaching their kids. Um, but then when I came to the upstate, I was asked to show my tattoos in my interview, and the teachers that were interviewing me and the administrators were, analyzing my tattoos and asking me questions about it. And there's no policy
Wow.
against keeping them hidden, so I have them out all day, every day. It's very culturally driven. Um, I think a lot of people do make assumptions based on those tattoos, similar to the ones that you said. I am kind of known, even at the school that I'm at, as the bearded tattoo teacher, right? If somebody doesn't know my name or who I am, they'll say, it's the teacher with the tattoos and the beard. Um, so there's definitely some of that going on. I don't remember, what did he say?
So we were just talking about how it was super interesting because in my job field, it's, obviously expected to be heavily tattooed.
Mm,
And then outside of work is where I feel like I am not necessarily judged, but like seen more as like the tattooed person.
mm,
Whereas for him, it was the opposite because it was so taboo in his job to have his tattoos. His personal life was where he felt the most comfortable having his tattoos. So like I feel the most comfortable, obviously, in all aspects of being tattooed more so
yeah.
now than before. But I notice being noticed more outside of work because again, in work, when I didn't have as many tattoos as I do now, they were like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why don't you have
Yeah.
tattoos?" Whereas for
I mean,
him,
that's
it's
also
like,
the opposite thing here. That like
Right.
you would be judged for getting more tattoos, and you would be judged for not getting more tattoos in
correct.
these
In so
respective.
many ways, we are opposites.
So
And yeah, it's
honest.
exactly what
Yeah.
she said. Like, I don't think about my tattoos outside of work. When I'm out with, Lena, when I'm at the school picking her up, it never actually occurs to me that I'm the tattooed person walking around in the group. But when I'm at school, even when they're covered, I'm still hyper aware of
Mm.
the fact that I'm the oddball. I'm the black sheep in that environment.
But I think it's very true what you sort of hinted at, that that's the social construction of that environment, that it's like they put that pressure on you in that context because the culture is a certain way in the context of teaching there. Whereas I would imagine at school pickup for your daughter, you wouldn't be as mindful. I don't know if your daughter goes to the school you teach at, but if it is a separate school, you might not be as mindful of like covering them up because you're picking up your daughter. You're not there to work in that context.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stereotypes come from those professional cultures, right? You see a
Mm,
person with tattoos and someone assumes, oh, they must be a blue collar worker. Well, that's because there's been a history of lawyers and doctors and other professions that require you to either not have them or keep them covered up. So you don't see people from those worlds showing their tattoos. So you don't make that association when you see
yeah.
it.
Well, at least, I mean, at least they covered up because we figure out more and more. This is a a fun little pet thing of mine, where I know a historian from the UK who specializes in tattoos. He's been on the show as well, and he one of his main things he tries to show people is that it's always been people that aren't just blue collar that get tattoos as well, like fucking landed gentry and lawyers and all that. But the thing is, as you said, the culture or the work environment culture have always made them cover it up. So often they don't show it as much as people from other cultures do. So you get this misinterpretation that, oh no, it's definitely a blue collar thing to have tattoos. Like, and that especially happened in, the 80s and the 70s, where I was like, no, 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 definitely a blue collar thing. Even in the 80s and 70s, now that we're looking back at those ages in history, we keep seeing like teachers and lawyers and doctors having tattoos, man. Like, It's also the strange thing now being to stay in this, even though it's a bit of a side topic on the teaching thing, that I felt as well when I taught at university and in the UK, so it was much lax, so they didn't give a shit about my tattoos, the people teaching, and the students seemed to just love them. But that is the thing, like you do think about them just because of how much society has knocked it into your head that, oh, what are the kids gonna think? So even though I none of my colleagues make me think that way. When I was teaching these undergrads, I kept thinking, what are they going to think about my tattoos? I'm not going to hide them because I've not been made to hide them, but what are they going to think about them? Whereas if I just walk down the street and teenagers walk by, I don't think at all about what are they going to think about my tattoos because I couldn't give a shit.
Right. Right.
I love it when the kids ask me about them because, and they
Oh
do
yeah, same,
sometimes.
same.
And all of my tattoos, well, not all of them, but most of them, especially my visible ones, are somehow related to my profession and my
Okay.
studies and those things. So they'll say, what is this? Oh, that's a painting by William Blake. And they're like, who's William Blake? I'm like, money. Yeah, now we're talking about British poetry. How you like me
You've
now?
actually turned it into a teachable moment, your tattoos for
Yeah.
the kids. That's awesome, man. No, my visible ones are just mainly nerdy, like mainly geeky ones, like Star Wars and a vampire lady and my favorite manga couple and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
One
even that stuff,
Polynesian piece though.
they people relate to it, right?
Yeah,
If I had a
no, I
manga
think that's very
tattoo,
true.
I've got tons of students that are into
Mm.
manga. They don't get to read it in school, but it's something they do at home. They watch anime. They see something like that, on your arm, and they instant connection. They're like, I know what you like, I know what you're into, and I know how into it you are, so we could talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. Like, and that's what people keep discovering in sociology and psychology and anthropology that much more so than being a barrier, tattoos are often an icebreaker and sort of social lubricant in a way. Uh, more than anything. But I'm curious about one thing. Do people like you when you're out with your daughter as a couple and the tattoos are on display, especially in the summertime? I imagine from what I hear, it gets quite warm in South Carolina and quite humid. So I imagine you don't cover up all the tattoos when you're out and about with your daughter in your free time in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
How do you feel people view you versus other parents that might not be tattooed?
No, I get a lot of compliments. So I haven't been heavily tattooed. Like when I was pregnant with my daughter, the pictures is so funny. I have no tattoos on my arm, either of them. And now I have a full sleeve over here. I have a half sleeve over here. And I've just noticed like I get a lot of compliments. It's we had this one weird experience where we were in line at a drive-through and the person in front of us paid for our food and we got up to the window and the woman said that she paid for it because we looked cool and I was like, whoa, that
I
is
mean,
not normal. Like
take it from me, you do look cool. Like,
I don't
but
we don't feel that way. So that's what's so crazy because we're such, like in our normal life, we're very much homebodies and we're just I don't know, it's just that's definitely I've never been considered cool. So like I think I don't know, I guess I think it helps bridge a gap for some, and then I think it's just interesting for others to see us as heavily tattooed, and we have like such a very I don't know, like I don't,
We do get we actually, now that I think about it, we get complimented to the point where it kind of feels almost normal
yeah.
for
Oh
a
yeah.
stranger to come up to us and compliment our tattoos.
Mm.
We get a little bit of the other stuff. Remember in Sarasota, Florida, walking onto the beach, that lady that totally went out of her way to not like cross
Oh
paths with
yeah.
us.
Wow. I do get that
Um,
here in Denmark as well. Sometimes old ladies, they'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna go over to the other sidewalk.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so funny.
she saw the guy with the beard and the tattoos
Yeah, exactly. Oh
on
Oh,
yeah,
the
that'll
drunk
get
stick
them
walking
every
down the
time.
beach.
That'll get them every time.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It
I
still
But
happens.
yeah. It
but I
probably
would
just
say
depends
just
on
as your
where we
experience
are.
is sort of illustrated there, at least as I've seen, I'm not a parent myself, nor am I part of a couple or anything like that, but there does seem to be like it's still out of the ordinary, but people have gotten used to people being tattooed and parents, so they don't feel like the misconceptions aren't anymore. They're like, oh no, you must just be drug addicts and she's a whore, and why are you even parents to her? It's more like just that they might think too highly of you almost in a way. Like they might think like, oh, these are total rock stars. Like they're tattooed and they have a kid. Like I more often see that happening with tattooed parents that they think they're really badass and like, oh, they must be picking up this kid on a motorcycle, and then you come in a minivan or something like
Yeah,
that,
right.
because they're
Show up in
just
my
regular
Highlander.
parents with tattoos.
Yeah.
I think genuinely the quality of the art
Yeah.
and quite honestly, the fact that it's in such high demand that it's become so expensive, it's not accessible
Mm.
to anybody anymore. It's breaking down a lot of those stereotypes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
it's really shattering those stereotypes.
Is this you complaining that she's not taking you in as anymore? She's too expensive for that?
No, but I would imagine it's tough if you're, a down and out drug addict
Yeah,
to get your hands on a good
absolutely.
tattoo, right?
I mean, it
So
will be something very often poorly done and done by some either a really shoddy place that does it or somebody with a home kit or something like especially the US has some of the highest tattoo rates, like some of the highest prices for the tattoos. So especially there, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's going up exponentially, especially around here.
Mm.
because I've had that thought. I've seen people with very big, very nice tattoos and thought like, man, you really stashed away for a while before you got
Yeah.
into that one. Like,
Absolutely.
Well, that's how
Like,
your mindset changes once you're in
yeah,
it. Like once you are a tattooed person, you don't no longer think like,
yeah,
oh wow, big tattoo, wonder what he do. You're like, wow, how do
no.
you afford that? Like, how
right.
do you?
Yeah.
You must be a diligent person. Like
Yeah.
you really put into that one.
I see a good sleeve and I'm like, oh my God, all I want to do is ask, like, where did you get that? I can't imagine. And you definitely put in time and
On
work.
that note, do you sort of like want to show off your work with him? Like, has Arsenio become your billboard as your husband? Like with all the work you've done on him?
He
Do
totally
you?
is accidentally. And I think it's so, well, I think as you get more tattooed and you see your partner more tattooed, I forget that they're there more often than not because it's
You
just a
did
part
them.
of them. I know, I know, I know. I literally forgot about like his one, another one on his other thigh, and I was like, oh, I forgot we did that tattoo. That's crazy. But you just get so used to the person, like
No,
the
like
the
I
overall
get that,
package.
but it just makes it a little funny when it's like, oh no, I forgot that tattoo, but you did that tattoo, and it's on
Yeah.
your husband. Like I get forgetting a tattoo in the wild on somebody you tattooed years ago,
Wow.
you don't
Wild.
see anymore, and you're like, oh, I did that on you. Shit, I forgot that, but this is your
Yeah.
husband, and you did all his tattoos.
One thing that's really has been very consistent in our relationship though is I have decals on my car that have the shop name on it. And it never fails that if they see us together, they
Mm.
automatically assume that he's the tattoo artist. And it's also
Oh,
funny when
right.
people do comment on his tattoos and he's like, oh, she did them. They're like, she did them? It's
Yeah.
like,
See, this I've seen before. Like I even some female artists I've known about have talked about when they're at conventions and their partners they're helping them set up. The people will come up and ask the partner about the tattoos. It's like it's wild that this still exists. We have so many brilliant female artists out there, yet at conventions and the wild that you were talking about, and people will still assume that the man is the tattoo artist.
yeah. I've never been assumed the tattoo artist ever, not once.
Yeah, again, we're opposites. She's the tattoo artist that looks like a teacher. I'm the teacher that
Yeah.
looks like a tattoo artist. Get mislabeled all the
So
time.
true. Yeah. Yep.
It
I've
is.
had people straight up be like, "Oh, I thought you like I would have never assumed you were a tattooer." Somebody said they thought I might be a hairdresser because like I do stuff to my hair, and I was like, "No, I just I don't know."
Well, is Arsenio a barber then? Like,
I know he's got nice hair too under the hat. He's got real good hair.
Well,
So
it's strange. Even people who know I'm a teacher have
yeah.
still, on occasions, asked me if I also tattoo.
Yeah, I've gotten that as well. Like, even students when I taught at the University of Glasgow would ask me if I knew how to tattoo, and I was like, I mean, that would be a lot of work to do that. And I mean, I
It's
know
not.
one guy who did it and wrote a whole book about it, doing a PhD and a tattoo apprenticeship at the same time. But that's the only guy I know of who did that.
well, I
You
think
know.
it comes with the assumption that if you are heavily tattooed, then you must be in an industry where it's allowed, right? And
It's sort of
so
to pull the sociology card a bit here. It sort of shows some of the lingering stigma that even though it's more common to see tattoos, when you get heavily tattooed, for example, have a beard like beard Arsenio, there's sort of still is some stigma there. There's still lingering there, and they start wanting to figure out excuses as to why is it okay for you to be that tattooed.
Mhm.
yeah,
And one of the excuses they often grab is like, oh, he must work somewhere in that industry.
Mhm.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere
You
it's
know,
allowed. Yeah.
it's sort of strange because, but there's a lot of things I would imagine that, and as we spoke about already, it's not necessarily negative ways people assume wrong things about you guys just because you're tattooed. But it's a funny thing, like you're a tattooed couple, yet people already have these assumptions just because, oh, no, look, he's clearly like he's got the beard, he's got that outfit, he's got tattoos, he must be the artist, and she's the assistant. This is
And then we just
it
shatter their worldview.
yeah, exactly. But is there any time where you've like, has it ever been bad enough that you felt you had to really speak up out of you about it? Like, has there ever been anyone that was so like that got it so wrong that you were like, come on, let me.
It doesn't ever bother me. Like I don't I think it's humorous more often than it
Mm,
bothers me. I mean, I've gone up against it since I started. Like when I first started tattooing, I had no visible tattoos. I was like 23 years old. I looked like a baby. So like I got, no, I don't want her tattooing me. She's too young. She doesn't even have tattoos. Why would I let her tattoo me? So like I've kind of gone up against that side of
mm,
not wanting to get tattooed by me or not assuming that I do this for so
yeah,
long that and now I just kind of think it's funny. I think I get it maybe a little less now because I'm more visibly tattooed.
yeah.
But
Well,
we think it's hilarious. I love
yeah,
it. I don't know.
because
I
the
think
I
it's
funny
mean,
thing
funny.
is,
it is
so
it
you
is
don't know
kind
what
of
you're
funny,
missing.
Yeah.
You don't even know what you're missing out on, Bob.
It just baffles me, the fact that they'll see the great art and they'll see this couple out, and then they'll be like, no, he's the guy that does it. But if they like you said, there's theirs, and they don't know what they're missing out on because I've seen people, I've heard at least heard stories of it. I've seen it once happen in real time. They're like, oh, she's the one that does it, and then they walk away like from the stand that
Yeah.
it's too much. It's like, so wait, you loved the art until you found out it wasn't him but her. Like that's wild to me that people can be so adamant about. No, I'm not going to let a female tattoo me.
I think the same applies for the way people view you as a tattooed person.
Yeah.
Um, I taught in Italy, and
Mm.
I had a conversation with a teacher there who told me how unprofessional she thought tattoos were. I mean, she said all these awful things to say about it. And meanwhile, up until that point, all these teachers were asking me to help them in their classroom. They were asking me to split time so that I can come talk to their students. Like they all wanted me in their room
Damn,
working with
man.
their kids. And she's telling me these things. And at the end of our conversation, I showed her, I've got all these tattoos. And she's like, "Oh, but at least you keep them covered up." It's like that's interesting how you had all these negative things to say, and then when the person that you saw in a positive light, you find out that they have tattoos now. Oh, but at least we don't see them. It's like you're missing the point. I'm still the same person that you admired 5 minutes ago before you knew I had tattoos. The tattoos don't change anything.
Yeah.
Look, I
So
mean,
yeah, that's
it's a great parallel point to this, like that it's yeah, like people have these weird conceptions, and then as soon as they challenge, they'll try and do these mental gymnastics almost to sort of, oh no, but I didn't mean that. Like I imagine you must have had it as well in what you talked about there. Was like, oh no, oh she does the tattoos. Oh no, yeah, sorry, no, I didn't. No, you clearly hoped that it was Arsenio, but now you know it's Jessie. You're like, and then you try to defend it. It's kind of it's strange in a way, and I think it happens even if you were both like even if you'd both been even heavier tattooed, more visibly tattooed than now. That's what's weird to me because I've spoken to people where this people would still make that assumption if they see really heavily tattooed couples and they know one of them is a tattoo artist. They'll 9 times out of 10 be like, oh no, it's the guy who's the artist, which is so strange to me, because at least today, like I get it if we would lived way back in the 70s and all with all the gatekeeping that went on back then, that it would have been a safe bet to be like, oh yeah, we have Arsenio and Jesse here. Jesse must be the two artists because we don't let women in, like
Yeah.
But today it seems so strange that like we have this couple. Oh, he's gonna be it because he's clearly really heavily tattooed. He's got the beard. He's got the look. He's cosplayed it. We gotta go with him. Like.
I feel like that's gotta shift over time, that the
I think
assumptions
so
being
too.
flipped.
I think so
You
too.
know,
I
it's
think it's already shifting. It's just, a bit of it is still lingering out there, and you see it because the more people you have somewhere, the more likely you are to still see some of this lingering stuff. So, but I think,
because I think if you take tattoo out of it and you just say one of us is an artist, I think most people would guess her.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. Like, I think absolutely that's the weirdest thing about it, and it's a fantastic point you pulled out there, Senor. That if we ignored all the tattoos and just went up to people and you couldn't see either of your tattoos and just said, one of us does art. Did 9 times out of 10 pick
Really good point.
Jesse? That's again
Yeah.
a weird stereotype, in a weird positive way, pseudo positive way. It's like, no, women are the, the emotional ones. They do like,
Yeah.
Well, no, as soon as
oh,
you add needles and blood to the
yeah.
mix, it's going to be a man sport now.
Suddenly
So
it's like, oh, we all, that's the weird thing because most of the tattoo artists, even back in the day, were fucking art students and stuff like that. They just went into biker communities and then became tattoo artists, you know?
Yeah. That's so
meanwhile,
interesting.
she's tattooing me and I'm the one crying the whole time.
Do you, okay, that's a good, do you give him a hard time about it? Are you a bit more judgmental of him when he's getting tattooed than you would be with a normal client?
I love him so much, but he does not enjoy to get tattooed. He'll still
Well,
let me
hey,
do
hey, hey, in his defense, none of us do.
it.
Maybe because I'm married to the artist, I feel more comfortable complaining about it.
Yeah.
That might be it. That might be it.
Yeah, I see that. I see that a lot actually, just in general, because we talk about that a lot at the shop. That I wonder if some people are as vocal as they are about being uncomfortable in
Hmm.
other scenarios at other tattoo shops, because we do get really comfortable with our clients. So I hear a lot about how much it sucks,
But
you know?
but I think Arsenio had a good point in the joke he made that there is something about your interpersonal relationship as a couple that then makes either of you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but on either side of this power dynamic there isn't being tattooed, you're both more comfortable being a bit more tough on the other, or being a bit more vocal with the other. Whereas if you're with a regular client in any setting, but especially in something as intimate and as tender, I would say, as a tattoo setting, you're much more careful, especially. I mean, I've already spoken to you about your professionalism in your studio, Jesse, and how you are with clients there. There's so much more care taken to, oh, can't just tell them off for moving too much. I have to still be
Right.
polite about that, even though they've now moved that arm 12 times and I'm about to botch this flower so bad on them.
Yep.
You still have to be polite about it. Whereas I imagine not to be hard on Arsenio, that if he did the same stunt and kept moving his arm while you tattoo it, you would tape the fucker down.
I was just gonna say that. Like, suck it up. You're fine.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's this thing because now I can't as we don't have the other girls from your studio here. Do you see the same thing with their partners that they're also a bit harder on them or a bit more like vocal with them if they tattoo them?
So the only person that I've ever, I think, watched tattoo their partner has been Mary Lee. And she was very tender with him, but
Good.
she's our newest artist. So I think
Um,
she's a little bit more hyper conscious of her own, tattooing.
so not as
And
jaded like
well, yes,
no,
the answer is yes, yes, for sure.
no.
Yeah, and I like my sister's tattooed her fiance, but I wasn't
Oh,
there for it. So yeah, JC's tattooed her fiance, but I wasn't there for it. So I don't know. I think
okay, got
everybody,
it.
yeah, I think I'm hardened and I'm hard as it
And
is.
in fairness, I don't make it easy. As you brought up the word intimacy, I am fully aware that when she is tattooing anyone other than me, it is 1,000 times more intimate than when she's tattooing me because I don't talk to her.
Doesn't talk to me.
We don't exchange words. There's no conversation. It's complaining up here until it gets so loud that it
I
leaks
think
out here. And those are the words that we exchange, if any.
that has to be a couples thing because every single whether it's the female that started this or the man that started this or whatever, every single couple I've ever met where the partner tattoos the other guy, the person getting tattooed never speaks to them during the
No.
session. It's wild to me. I think it seems like almost a universal thing without any
Yeah.
research to back it up. Just pure anecdotal, like what I've seen around. It just seems to be universal that if your partner is tattooing you, you just get so annoyed with the
We've got
process that
all
you
the
don't.
time in the world to talk. Right now, during this tattoo session, we just need to get through this rough patch. This 4 to 5 hour long rough patch in our relationship. We just got to push through that.
What's the worst one you've had with Jesse?
Oh, the Einstein on my front right thigh, by far.
What made that so
To
bad
this day, she
if I
hasn't
dare
finished it.
ask?
It's still not finished and it never will be.
What I gotta ask, what made it that bad? Arsenio?
Something about that placement, it just felt like she was dragging a razor blade all over my leg. And when she got to the white highlights, I was like, oh, I can't take anymore. And once I recovered from it, I was like, I don't think I want to go back there again.
You said that like you were gonna be like, if we go back there, we are getting divorced.
It's done.
Yeah.
There's
That
no
tattoo's
more.
done. It's
Yeah.
I will need a motel room if you finish
Yeah,
that tattoo.
I need time to forget. I can't. Oh, there are places like there are some places here and here that I'm like, oh, I really need to add. He's like, no, you don't.
But do you think it would be different about that if it was another artist? Like,
In some ways, yes. Um, if I
like
had
I,
another artist, I'd have to be more selective about, what I got tattooed and when I got tattooed. Um, we toss ideas around, and then whatever we're on when the time comes available is what we do. If I had to, book an appointment with an artist, I'd have to like commit to something and wait for that one thing. I'd be more thoughtful about where I put it. I kind of let her do whatever she wants. I'm willing to try and do anything with her. So,
But I think you're onto a really good point that when it's not your partner doing it, which is another thing I don't think people expect in the difference between dating when you're dating a tattoo artist to when you're just getting tattooed by an artist you don't know normally. There's a different level of responsibility and commitment when you make that appointment. And when you're sitting there, there's also the whole economic portion of it and all that stuff. So I think you sort of have more of an inclination to force yourself through it that I hope this is not coming across the wrong way because I don't
No,
mean
that's
you
right.
bit
yeah.
because I can almost hear myself say right now I'm not accusing you of bitching out of tattoos just because Jessie is the one to do it, but I just can easily as a sociologist imagine that these responsibilities are not really present when it's Jessie tattooing you because
Right.
she's your wife,
No,
she's
like,
your partner, she's the closest person to you in that way. Even if it was a friend doing it, I think that would be still be less of that, sort of pressure in a way. Even if you're only relative strangers, like I've gotten to know, as you often do, Jesse, you can attest to this. You often get to know your artist quite well if you have a big project, but there's still, only that relative strangeness between you that sort of still makes you like, okay, yeah, gotta get this done. I paid for it. I mean, I'm speaking generalization here. We've all met lots of people that never go back and finish a tattoo, no matter who did it, because it was too painful or they couldn't find the time. But generally speaking, there seems to be more of this inclination that, oh, yeah, better go get this done because it was a hassle getting the time, it was a hassle getting the money, it was a hassle going there. I gotta get this done, and I just gotta finish it.
and it's more of a your decision on that end where I
Yeah.
genuinely feel like my tattoos are kind of our decision,
Oh,
which
that's
changes the way I
interesting.
think about them because I've had, 3 or 4 tattoo ideas long before the most recent one that
Oh,
that we did, which was my daughter's favorite stuffy on my arm. So
oh,
like those ideas were already on the back burner, and she got one, and we really liked the way it came out, and we really liked the idea, and our daughter really liked it. So I was like, we could do something like that. I could do something like that too. And the fact that we already had other tattoo ideas on the back burner, in the queue, just didn't even
in
matter.
the
It was,
queue.
this just became at the time when the time was available, it was,
That's what we're gonna do.
that's what we're gonna do. That's not the way it would work if I had an artist that I was paying and booking
No,
with.
you're right
How
because
it
you,
would
you
go.
pay for that time slot in a different way and it's much more planned and like scheduled in a way.
Yeah.
Not saying it's not when you guys do it, but as you're saying, it's much more inspired and there's all
Yeah.
these different ideas you have and you see which one you pick and where like as you're putting it that right there, Senor, there's a lot more planning and careful planning when it's a tattoo by somebody else.
Yeah. And the financial side of it is a big deal too, when you're committing thousands of dollars to a
I mean,
piece. Well,
Jesse, because of how you're treating it, he might be saving up as we speak to go somewhere else, to be honest.
that's a very good point.
Well, she's got to remember too, as the artist, she's not just, doing art and putting it out there and it goes in her portfolio. She's got to see it
That's
every
true.
day.
Yeah, that
She's
Yeah.
is
got to
true.
like it
That is
too.
very true.
Yeah, I listen. The last tattoo that he's talking about, the stuffed animal. So it's my daughter's hand holding her stuffed animal.
Okay.
And I don't even know if I told you this, but hands are hard. They're difficult just to draw, let alone
The
tattoo.
bane
So
of many an artist, tattoo
so
or
much.
otherwise.
Right. So I'm like, I didn't even really consider it because I do them a lot in my tattoos. But as I'm working on his, I am literally in the middle of tattooing him and I start getting hot. I felt like I was going to throw up because in my mind, I was completely ruining this hand. It looked nothing like a hand. And now I have to stare at it forever. And how am I going to excuse this? I cannot believe I'm doing this to the man I love. Like, how dare I? This is literally happening as I'm tattooing him.
Did you
And
Simpson it and
I
give her only 4 fingers or something like that?
no, but it just looked hands realism in general. Like I always tell the girls that I work with, like when you're doing realism, there is a point in the process where it looks crazy and it looks terrible and you don't know if it's going to turn out right and you're just pray like trust the process and it always comes through but like realism is just a weird it's weird because they're like when you learn how to draw hands you're taught not to think of it as a hand because if you think of it as a hand then you're going to do it wrong and it's never going to look like the thing. Just trust the process and then at the end of it it looks like the hand. Cut to tattooing the hand, but it was just like I just kept thinking like, oh my God, I have
I
to
can
look
see
at
a smirk
this
sneaking up on Arsenio as you're saying this.
because he had no idea
But
because I
no, I
wouldn't
never
say
had any
that.
idea what's going on.
No, because I just keep
Yeah,
it implied.
there's a nervous
I'll just
like,
try
what
not to
did you
yell at
do?
her.
Is there
Yeah,
something like he looks like he's about to run out and go in the mirror and be like, what did you actually like?
yeah. So
Usually it's more like that's all you did?
yeah,
That's it? This whole time?
yeah. Yes, I get that a lot. So
Um,
yes, that was my experience with that. And the layer of knowing that it's on, it's the same thing when I tattoo my friends, my family. Like there is this, it's weird because there's this added pressure where I feel like, oh
okay.
my God, I'm gonna see this forever. This has to be perfect. This has to be,
Oh,
no, but
wait,
I
wait,
don't
wait, wait. So
every
it's
day.
because you have to see it forever.
No.
Okay, that's a funny angle to be honest.
I know
So it's
that
because
sounded
you can't be
terrible.
like, well, at least they move back somewhere else after. It's like,
Won't see you
I
again.
don't know you.
Yeah, like it's
so
fine.
it's because it's like,
Fair enough.
oh, I can't like that reminds me of a funny story I heard. I can't remember who it was, but it was a female artist I met once at a convention that said that the worst thing she ever had was her boyfriend wanting some really shitty tattoo above the groin area. And she's like, I can't do that because I'm the one going down there. Like,
Yeah. I'm gonna see it forever and I don't want to
it's
see
like I'm literally gonna stare at it if we do. Like if we do that, you're never getting one of those again. She was
yeah.
basically saying.
It's an incentive not to get a tattoo.
I mean, that's a powerful weapon to have as the partner that tattoos. To be like, if I do that on you, you gotta know that thing is gone. Like,
Yes, that's a big decision to make.
like, oh
Um,
shit, what am I gonna? Come on, do I
Choices.
really want this tattoo or do I? Do you think it's all is a productive and constructive thing for your relationship that you don't both work as tattoo artists? Do you think it would have been very different if you both worked in the industry?
No, that's tough. I think there's a lot of ways that we would probably work really well together,
Yeah.
and I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of ways that we probably would not.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think for our lifestyle, it probably would have made things a lot easier because
Hmm.
we could balance one thing instead of balancing two very different and very demanding careers. But yeah, because we're so opposite, like we work very well together because his brain is the complete opposite of mine.
Hmm.
Um, so like where I lack, I'm reminded every time I come up against a wall that I just can't break through. The second I bring it up to him, he has this unique perspective on it that I'm like, yeah, why didn't I talk to you hours ago before I banged my head into this wall a million times?
But if I don't have 1,000 reminders for every single thing on my agenda, something will fall through the cracks, and that will drive me.
Correct. So yes, I would be in charge of scheduling it.
It would have to be a very
That is
specific balance of
that is
responsibility.
quite ironic with a teacher that you would have to be in charge of
Yeah,
schedule. Like, you live on a schedule, basically. Like,
I know. And without modern technology
but
and a lot of
again,
people,
I get why you said me and him are very similar. I had the same thing myself. Like I can easily figure out like, oh yeah, I gotta teach this class then. I gotta go to this meeting then. But in my private life, I'm like, ah, fuck, I just lost 3 hours to a video game, and what the fuck happened? Like,
Yeah, the
I have to
person
put alerts on my phone to remind myself, oh yeah, you can't miss this. Like,
Yeah, you should see my calendar. My calendar's insane. It's because it's balancing all the things.
I mean, speaking again, not, to use a good example, my own parents, same thing. They have a shared calendar, and there's just my mom's the calendar keeper, even though my dad religiously uses it more.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
he's the keeper of the calendar and will write stuff down on it.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
think
put
we're
things on my calendar for me.
yes, I do. Definitely. Or else it will not happen. But that's
It's
one of
good.
our that's again what makes it work. Like he said when we were talking about doing this, we were talking, he was like, "Well, I don't think there's anything like super unique about us." I mean, but I think but
I'm
but
sorry, I didn't mean to react that viscerally. That just seemed so like, wow, that you no, yeah, definitely.
to our like to us it doesn't feel like it, but he brought up a good point that he's like the calm and
Mm.
I'm the spark plug that's never calm. So without him, I would be a basket case and I probably would have lost my mind years ago. And without me, I think like
There's so many things I would just say, fuck it. Fuck it.
that.
Fuck it. Don't have time or energy
I
for
get
that.
how I feel like that.
And
There
she's like, no, no,
sometimes
no.
needs to be.
You got time and energy for that. Let's just put it on the calendar and it'll get done.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a great. You really come, as you said, both of you. You complement each other so well. Like
Yeah.
it's great to see, and I recognize a lot of both of what you say. Like that, it's good to have something to temper you in that way as well.
Yeah.
Like you, not that you can't. I mean, I also want to be an advocate for nobody has to be in a relationship. So I don't like that old school thinking of like everybody has to get married and have kids and all. But
No.
I just think that when you're in a relationship, it's so healthy to not need everything to be the same and not need everything to be different, but just figure out what works, what doesn't work, how you complement each other, and what you can have separately as well. I think it's
Yeah.
very healthy in that way. That's what I see with my own parents. You don't need to have everything in common. It's good to have some things in common, but it's best if you can figure out what works and how do you work with each other and how do you not erase who the other person is, but instead just figure out how you complement each other. And you seem to have done that.
I think our fundamental values are the same, which is why the relationship
I
and
mean, that's a good thing
parenting
to have. Like,
works.
for example, it would be very difficult if he was like, no, no, you gotta beat kids. And you're like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's
That's
so
a
much.
hard thing to disagree on. Like,
Yeah, yeah. But I
it's like, no,
think,
no, quick backhand. Like, just
oh God, yeah, no. I think we've always said that we, instead of like becoming, we didn't become one when we got married. Like we're very different people. That's not the case, but we've always walked down the same path, but like holding hands, along our own
no,
paths.
no.
Like we're still
I,
together, but
I
we
totally get what
definitely
you
have
mean.
very distinct paths that we've taken.
I totally get what you mean, but I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, and I think especially in marginalized communities like the tattoo world, so to speak, a lot of people when they get together with somebody want to mold them to fit how they see things and how they see themselves. But the thing is, you can absolutely keep yourself who you are without having to mold the other person. It's way better to like you guys have, and I know there's some part of luck into that as well, but it's way better to find someone that likes you for who you are and will grow with you rather than be like, no, 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 we gotta like let's say Jessie was not like this, and she'd be like, no, you gotta shave this, you gotta do this, you gotta change your that because I've been with people like that, and many have throughout their life been with somebody that suddenly is like, no, no, you gotta change this, and this, and you can't do this anymore, and you have to. That's never the right way to go about it.
I think the testament to that is when people find out what our spouse does and they're surprised in that. So when people find out I'm married to a tattoo artist, they're like, "Oh, really? Like, wow, that's I wouldn't have guessed that." And I'm sure sometimes you get, "Oh, you're married to a teacher or a college professor." I wouldn't expect that.
I mean, I think you're
Again,
very
like
correct
just
there
so
because
true.
even I was surprised a bit when you said you were married to a PhD and a teacher. I was like, I mean, I'm privileged that I've met other academics that are that, but it's still quite rare. So it's still a bit like, oh wow, I didn't know. What? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it says a
And
lot about who we are as individuals that
Yeah,
like I don't give off the tattoo shop feel and she doesn't give off the mom of the classroom feel, right? Like, but we are still comfortable in each other's spaces.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you, on that note, enjoy going to the studio? Like, do you go there and visit Jessie sometimes or?
Yes and no. So this is again where we're opposites. I am not the social one. She's the social one.
Ah,
So it has less to do with the
the
shop.
irony of that again, would you be but again, so many teachers are. They just want to get home and have their space because they're with kids all day.
Yeah. So it's not so much the shop. The shop is beautiful. I do enjoy the
Yeah.
space itself.
It does look quite nice. I would love to see it in real life someday. But if things work out for me at some point, I will come visit and see
It's
it.
definitely a treat. Like really, just being in the shop is for sure an experience. It's a you just walk around and look at things, and you are in a completely unique and
That's how
comfortable.
you know you're in a good tattoo studio, whether it's a small one or a big one, when you can walk around and just be like, oh shit, what's this over here? And all this.
But I've got a time limit, generally,
Oh,
after
what?
15, 20 minutes of socialization, I start getting
Oh,
exhausted.
okay. I thought it was more like Jessie will kick you out. She's like, no spouses.
No, 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 no. I'm sure she'd have me stay longer. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you enjoy when he comes to the studio?
I mean, I love it. I like it. It is very few and far between. So I always get like very excited when I see him like, oh, my husband's here. Like, oh, that's exciting. You know? But yeah,
Telling
because
the girls, you gotta be on your best behavior. Arsenia's coming.
no,
Get in
I
line.
love it. I mean, like I said, yeah, it is very rare, but I think it's rare for both of us to be in each other's spaces. So I think it's always kind of
You would
like
have to go to a school as well, which seems, I mean, I don't I don't know too much about the American way, but from what I've seen, documentaries that you can't just go into a school in America.
no.
No, but
Well,
I
he's
do
a
coach.
coach.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
she
okay, fair.
coaches
Yeah,
my
okay.
games and things like that. Yeah.
I mean,
But
it
I
is way
always feel
different
like
here in Europe. Like I could just about walk into my own old school. They would just ask me, "What are you doing here?" There wouldn't be any police call or anything. I would just
oh
be
gosh,
asked to leave.
yeah.
Like,
Unfortunately, very different here. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
I
but
mean,
I mean,
there's a whole cultural thing we shouldn't get into at this
right.
right now,
That's
but
a whole nother
that's a
podcast.
whole other thing. But,
Yeah.
but I imagine it is a bit more difficult. It's a bit more easy for you to drop in, but I do still get the whole you are different in that aspect and you like just personal space. So it takes a bit more to like be like, you know what, today we're gonna drain the social batteries completely and go see the wife at the studio. Because that takes a lot. I know that for myself as well. Sometimes you're like, oh fuck, I just not I can deal with like one more person today and that's it. Like,
Yeah, and I teach middle schoolers. So my students are
oh,
11, 12, and
a
13,
lot of energy.
and I've got 150 of them total in a
I
in a
don't
gym
envy.
class. So
I love teaching undergrads because they're 17 to 19 and they're very interested in learning. Middle schoolers are not really, I can imagine.
they're not interested in anything.
The second I tell people that he is a middle school people, sorry, our daughter.
It's
Okay,
okay.
I'll put it away. The second I tell people he teaches middle school, they're immediately like, "Oh God!" Like, I
He
know
deals
he
with
loves
tougher
it
clients than you do, to be honest.
for sure. I mean, my clients are wonderful, but I mean, I think that's why he's a great teacher. I mean, when he was not in, so he taught high school for a long time. Well, I guess a short time in the broad scheme, but he's just a very good teacher. He's very hands-on. He creates these ways of teaching his students that makes it accessible and makes them like I feel like his students learn best in his class because he brings something special to it. And so when he was teaching college, I mean, I thought it was amazing and it was great. And I think he definitely helped and affected so many people in such a positive way. But there was a part of me that was like, man, I hope he goes back to the classroom at some point because the point that those kids are at is when they need someone like him.
Yeah.
So when he went back to middle school, I was like, yes, like
Oh, nice.
these kids are really they're
But
gonna
I could
thrive and they
imagine
can
at
benefit.
college and high school level, he could possibly give you clients. Like, he could be like, oh, you want a tattoo?
I
Let's
have
talk after
tattooed
class.
some of his
Like,
students. I
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
have.
she's tattooed my former students.
Yeah.
like, shit, man. I had that feeling like you would absolutely be the type to, not in a creepy way or anything, just be like, oh, you want a tattoo? My wife's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
No, he didn't talk about it.
A lot of so especially when I taught high school, a lot of them didn't know because I had them covered up.
Yeah.
All right, all
I
right.
actually very vividly remember the first time a student found out about my tattoos. I was writing on the board, and my
And it
sleeve
like,
had just pulled up enough for them to see my wrist,
oh.
and like lessons stopped, man. Like everything stopped and shut down for a couple minutes.
Like you hear a
Whoa, whoa,
student
whoa, whoa,
knocking the
whoa.
door, like, we have to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this.
yeah. No, like, no, just a little dirt on my wrist. Don't worry about that. But yeah, no,
It's a
it's not
Bruce.
something.
It's a Bruce.
No, I didn't talk about it at all. I mean, now, everybody knows because I wear them out so they see it.
I imagine
But
that feels nicer. I mean, I know you don't mind the times when you have had to hide it, but imagine it does feel nicer being able to teach openly with your tattoos out now.
oh no, I mind it.
Oh
I
shit!
minded
Okay,
having to keep
fair
them
enough.
hidden. Trust me,
Fair enough.
Myrtle
I
Beach,
was being too diplomatic on your
no
behalf
way.
at that right
Myrtle
there.
Beach in the middle of, May, 98
Oh
degree weather, still
shit!
having to wear the long sleeves with the tie
Yeah,
and
fuck
everything.
that.
Man, it was
Fuck
rough.
that.
It was rough.
That must have been when you actually envied your wife her work. It's like I
Oh my
man,
gosh. And oh man, I looked into getting the policy changed, and there were other people
jeez,
trying to
man,
get
I
the
can
policies
imagine.
changed. It was rough. I went to the school district and sat down with people. They weren't having it. They weren't budging.
It's still that way there.
It still is,
No,
yeah.
I mean that's the thing with a massive country like the US. Not to go down to put this bow on this little side note. There's so many different cultures around the US in like 50 different countries technically, and even in those states, they're so vast and different that if you happen to be in a more called conservative area, it's probably going to be like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people misunderstand when they're from Europe, like I am, that it's going to be like New York or California and people are not going to care. But there's a lot of different places around the US where they're a bit more conservative. And then they're going to be suddenly very interested in, oh, you have a tattoo? We got to talk after work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
It's reflected in the
we're sort of
legislation too.
oh sorry, sorry to sort of end us off here. I want to ask a couple of funny things. We've already had a great time with this. It's been a very light-hearted episode for once. We've not gone into any really deep or really topics and everything like that. So, but anyways, as I usually say, which doesn't really work right now, on a lighter note, I was wondering, first of all, do you have anything you really want Jessie to tattoo on you? This coming, I will challenge her even more by saying this coming summer now that I know how you operate.
Um, my chest has been prime real estate that hasn't been
Hmm.
used, and I think closing in on 40, we should probably make use of that real
Yeah,
estate
I'd
relatively
say
soon.
knowing how, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s myself, it just gets more painful every year to get tattooed. I'm very happy I did my full chest when I was in my 20s, and so yeah, get that done before 40.
He's not gonna like it very much, but it's okay.
No, don't. That is the most wife thing you've done all interview. A snide
Pretty
comment out
much.
there says that you're not gonna like it very much.
Because every time I talk about it at the shop, they're like, "Oh, that's not gonna be good."
That's how bad I am at getting tattooed that everyone at the shop already knows.
That's not a reputation you want there, Arsenio.
Like I said, I don't pop in very often.
No, I get that now. They're just like, oh, it's the bitch boy. There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna be like to Jesse, oh, we see you brought your wife. Like,
Yeah.
it's bad when you hear a whole studio of only women say that.
I know, I know. It's not fair.
It's okay.
But on the other hand, what would you want to tattoo on him? If you had free reign, like complete free reign, where would you want to tattoo Arsenio next time?
I would love to tattoo his chest, honestly.
Okay,
Just
so you
because,
are at least in agreement. Like
yeah, yeah.
I
you
told you
just
it's a
disagree
weakness
on
of
how well
his.
he's gonna take it. Like
Right, right, right.
okay.
I mean, I will give him this. For as little as he enjoys getting tattoos, he still does
I mean,
it,
he does strike me as a guy that can just do the same thing I do, where it's just like it hurts and it's in agony, but you just shut down whatever you're getting tattooed.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with the rest of the body or whatever, but you just remain calm and get tattooed.
That's
Yeah.
why I don't talk to her.
Yeah.
Right. In my zone.
Yeah. He
You're
stays
saying you
very
can't keep calm talking to Jesse? Why would you
No,
say that?
can't talk to her.
not with a machine in my hand.
Nope. I talk
No,
to
I
her.
imagine not.
No, no, no. But
Right.
I love, so, he's got both of his arms and up to
All right.
here.
So
And
up and
I
down.
love when it all kind of flows together. And
I do like that on myself as well. Like that is when I look at myself in the mirror. I'm not as tattooed as I would have liked to be at this age. Bad luck economically. But I do like seeing how my sleeves connect to, the full chest and the ribs and stuff like that. That is another area I would warn you against getting done, Arsenio, if you don't have them yet. The ribs are the worst I've ever done to
yeah,
myself.
I can never foresee him getting his ribs tattooed.
I know people with face tattoos that don't have the ribs done.
No,
Is this,
that's not gonna happen.
We'll skip
I've
that.
never get more respect than when I have full colored ribs. Like,
Yeah, mad respect. Like,
but as the last little fun note before we round off the episode, I'm wondering, is there any advice you would give people, like either as tattooed parents or as tattooed people dating? Like, is there anything you would like, or is there a thing you would like to change in people's misconceptions? Like, is it something like that?
Oh man.
Um, I would say just because of how it's impacted our lifestyle, it is not just tattooing. There is a lot of time that goes into research and designing
Mm.
and thinking about those designs and executing those designs and aligning those designs. That is very time consuming. It's tattooing is not one of those professions where you get to leave your work at work.
No,
So
definitely not.
being partnered with someone who's a tattoo artist, you have to understand that. You have
Yeah,
to understand that they're going to be busy. Their time is very valuable, and they're not always going to be mentally there when they're physically there because there's work being done all the time.
yeah.
And that does, it impacts your lifestyle, it impacts the way, you communicate, the decisions you make on what you do together, when, how. Um, it's just you got to be mindful of it. It's the
Yeah,
same as if you were married to a teacher or a lawyer. They've got
yeah,
work to do
absolutely.
outside of the 9 to 5, and it just comes with the territory.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's
absolutely. I mean, I
probably,
couldn't agree more. Like
I
that,
think we
that's
got very lucky because I didn't tattoo when we met. And so he he gave me the confidence to kind of finally
Mhm.
do this for a career, but then also saw me getting into it and what it
Mm.
took. And I worked even more then than I do now. And so he was always there and he definitely like understood. And I see a lot people getting into relationships with tattoo artists and
They don't get it.
issues that come up. Yeah, the issues that really come up are, why are you away so much? Why are you working so much at home? Like I thought this was going to be different. And it's hard. It's harder than people expect. So I think it's just, understanding that while like obviously I'd love to be more mentally there sometimes on a Sunday when we're just here as a family, but if I'm in the middle, like I've been in the middle of this sleeve that is like very much testing me, there's a part of my brain that is kind of not quite there as much as we have been trying to work on it over the last 14 years, like figuring out how to make that not be the case. Yeah, there's just a lot more that goes into it. So just being aware that it's not just like a cool job that your partner's
No, but
gonna have.
I
Like,
think that's the misunderstanding. Like you also pointed out earlier, Arsenio, that a lot of people have when they see a tattoo artist and they might get attracted to them, whether it's a man or a woman, that they think it's just this rock star they're gonna be dating. And it's all gonna be cool and they're just gonna be there and it's gonna be so awesome. They're gonna get tatted by them, and there's a lot more stuff that goes into it. Like people forget that it is a job and a career and a lifestyle, that the whole shebang. But I think the people going the other way, I think people forget that about a lot of jobs. I think we sadly forget that often when we get together with people, that there's a lot more to it, and it's not just going to be what we imagine often. But it's also something beautiful in that. I find that it is better to just get to know the person and how they're going through things and all that stuff, like you guys have. Like you've gotten to know each other, you've seen each other go through different stuff. Uh, Arsenio's academic career and teaching career, your tattooing career, that was, and getting to know each other and seeing how things develop and being there for each other in those moments. I think that's the beautiful thing.
yeah, that's definitely what's kept it strong because we watched each other go through the really, really hard times.
I mean,
You know?
one must say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking as a dropout from a PhD, I know how tough it is to go through one as well. So,
Yeah. I don't think either of us really understood what it was going to be like.
right. It's been so lovely talking to you guys. We are at the end now, and first of all, I want to, as I always do, thank you so much for being on, both of you. I love how we got around a lot of topics today. I love how we talked about a lot both regarding your guys' relationship and your as parents and everything. But do you have any final comments? Anything?
I'm so grateful that you do this podcast. I think it's so
Awesome.
interesting. It's so fun. And thank you for asking us specifically, because I mean, I guess we do have fairly unique individual backgrounds and careers that we've kind of created this life around. So
I mean, I would say so. Despite us and you disagreeing before the podcast, I would say you're very unique people.
Well, this was nice even just for us as a couple to sit down and touch base and
I'm
think about
very
some of
happy
these things
you
that we
enjoyed it.
really don't think about much. So
yeah.
That means a lot to me. I pride myself. This is not a popular podcast, but I do, as many viewers will also know that see, watch, or listen to this. I pride myself in trying to make this enjoyable and not just making it me lecturing whoever's on. I'd rather try to build up and create understanding. And I hope you had that experience. And Jessie's already been on, so I'll plug her instead of her doing it for once. She just another hole in the walls too in South Carolina. Don't know precisely what town, but I will, as always, link it below the video.
Yeah.
And Arsenio, I don't think we should reveal where you teach at. That seems to be more trouble than anything. So just thank you so much for being on.
Of course,
And to anybody listening in, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this lovely Valentine's Day special. It's a day of celebrating love, and despite the questionable origins of this holiday, it is still quite a positive day of the year, and a day for many couples and people who are interested or in love, and even some single people to celebrate the love around the world and love with their special person or whoever else they choose to share the day with. But I hope you enjoyed this lovely episode of this day with the amazing Silvas and some of the interesting insights they had regarding both being parents that are tattooed, working in different professions, and dating as tattoo artists. I hope you enjoyed some of the insights they had regarding how, despite Jessie being the tattoo artist and quite an accomplished tattoo artist, people still sometimes mistake Arsenio for being the tattooer, even though he's actually a teacher by profession. But without getting too much into it now, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to the Silvers. It's always a great time having Jessie on, and Arsenio was great as well. But next time, we're moving to a different topic. I'm going to be talking to Chris Holt, also known on Instagram as Beyond the Tats, on Instagram and TikToks, I should say. A health coach and CrossFitter, and we're going to be talking about body image and mental health and tattoos. So it's going to be very interesting, and I hope you'll look forward to it, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.